Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily. Coming up, Luka gets revenge on the Mavericks. Cleveland Cavaliers win another one, and the Magic are struggling right now. And we got Christian Clark to talk about the Dallas Mavericks and their side of the loss to Luka. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, S.
Good morning.
How about those Lakers, S?
Yeah.
Wow,
Man.
Showtime is back.
We finally got the game. This was probably like one of the most anticipated games of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was Luka's debut was probably the one right before that. The Mavericks in LA facing Luka Doncic for the first time, and the Lakers get the win, 107-99. Luka Doncic records his first triple-double as a Laker, which I believe, and I didn't look this up, but I'm guessing because it's such a rare thing. I think he's probably the first guy to record his first triple-double with his new team against his old team.
I believe it. Honestly, yeah. Unless Russell Westbrook did it at some point, I believe it.
He did not.
No,
I do know that. I looked that up.
Then we're good. Yeah. Luka was awesome. I thought the theatrics behind this whole thing, he pulls up and changes his license plate. You know, the commercial that Jordan Brand did. They gave out free parking before the game to all the Lakers fans. There's fans chanting, "Thank you, Nico," to Nico Harrison in the middle of the game. Nico is warming up, is actually watching Luka warm up before the game. So there was like all this little theatrical stuff that was happening that heightened the drama around it. And you could see that there was tons of emotion from both sides. Luka, the way that he started the game, Kyrie,
got
the way
that really early. Luka was, contesting a foul call. Kyrie came out, had 12 quick points. I mean,
which was awesome.
It felt like an event.
It did.
You know?
It did. Yeah. It felt like a playoff game, actually, if anything. Like, it just felt like these two teams were so invested in beating each other that there was, even later in the game, there was like Jared Vanderbilt got into it with Kyrie, and there was some little back and forth there. Luka kept looking at the bench constantly whenever he was scoring. Oh, yeah. And it made for just like an awesome basketball game. It was really high level stuff from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, the first 6 minutes of the game, before they took away one of the three-pointers that Luka had made, I mean, Luka puts up 10 points, had 4 rebounds, a couple of assists, a steal, and a block, and he's chirping what I thought he was chirping at Jason Kidd, but I'm not sure. I wasn't in the arena, so I don't know. We'll have to wait for the reporting on that. But, just he came out, I thought, fired up. But the other guy that was really fired up, we'll get to the Kyrie side of this when we talk to Christian Clark after the break, but man, LeBron James, he continues this run that he's been on for a little while now. And I've been saying this, and S, I think you agree with me here, been playing like a top 5, top 8, wherever we want to set that line of delineation. Sure. But he's been playing out of his mind for especially his age. But the defensive end, this guy has been pretty incredible. And this is another game where LeBron steps up defensively. I mean, in lieu of a really strong defensive big man, like LeBron James is doing a more than credible job.
Yeah. I think the switch everything defense is predicated on the fact that you are able to be crisp on your rotations, that you are willing to buy in on maybe guarding someone who's quicker than you or guarding someone who's bigger than you. And in a situation where you're playing switch everything, LeBron can be your safety for everything that you do. The key thing there is can be, right? Because when he's bought in on that end, when he's actually active like he's been over this last stretch, I mean, the Lakers have the number 1 defense over the last, 15 or so games. Now, part of that is like the Anthony Davis equation and kind of the spillover. But I also think a part of it is Bron locking in. Yeah. One aspect is Luka. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, this is the 4th straight game they've held their opponent to 102 points or less.
That's massive. Like
that's pretty big.
I think like generally when you have a guy like Luka who can carry that offensive load for a little bit longer and Austin Reaves being able to do that, it just allows LeBron to lock in more on the defensive end. And when you are playing this really aggressive defensive style that the Lakers like to play, it makes sense to have a guy like Luka that can alleviate some of that offensive pressure, allow one of the best defenders of all time, in my opinion, LeBron, to just lock in and do that.
Well, and Luka's defense, by the way, we should point that out.
Absolutely.
I mean, there were times where his defense, I thought, on Kyrie Irving was excellent, even chasing him out like 30 feet from the basket and contesting all the way to the rim. I mean, this is what it's going to take, I think, for the Lakers if they're going to try to contend. They did not solve their problem in the middle, but they do have defenders, and I think that JJ Redick deserves a lot of credit for the way that he has set the rotation up. You mentioned LeBron being able to step up a little bit more because of Luka, but also look at the way that he's staggering these lineups so that when Luka sits and it's LeBron out there, they've got a little bit more of a defensive presence to make up for that. So
100%,
I'm not one of these people that's saying that JJ Redick is coach of the year or anything like that, but I will say that I think that he's done a pretty good job of integrating Luka into what the existing structure of this team and making the most of it. I mean, Luka just getting more and more healthy, I think, is going to be the most important thing for the offensive side of this. And let's not forget that Austin Reaves has benefited greatly, not only from this, but just this season in general, and has sort of taken a leap.
Feels so comfortable. He looks so 100%. Comfortable out there.
I think JJ Redick plays a part of that too.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is the leap season we expected Austin Reaves to have last year. Right. And he's having at this season.
Catching up to the hype.
I think he's catching up to the hype. We actually talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I think the fact that he didn't play basketball in the summer, there wasn't like a FIBA anything, or he didn't play in the Olympics, right? That allowed him to kind of get some rest, get his legs under him. And this season, he's just been awesome. The way that he's scoring the ball, the way that he's facilitating, kind of this secondary score whenever the Lakers need it, next to LeBron, next to Luka, that is the great offensive firepower for this Lakers team. It's like you just said it. You have to deal with one of Luka or LeBron. Right. And then whenever Austin Reaves is paired on there as well, they have that perfect release valve on offense to be able to go to anytime they want.
Yeah, he's a good tertiary, secondary playmaker, but also can run your offense too. Okay, well, there was some more stuff last night. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 48-10 now. They just crushed the Orlando Magic. They beat them by 40, which, we talked for weeks about how well the Magic were holding up when they were missing Paolo, how well they were holding up when they were missing Franz Wagner. And then they got both of those guys back just as they lost Jalen Suggs. And that's really when the wheels fell off for them. They just can't score, period.
Yeah. I think part of it is the Suggs equation. Like they're missing a secondary or tertiary ball handler. We just talked about the importance of Austin Reaves for the Lakers. I think Suggs in similar ways, just handling the ball a little bit for Paolo and Franz, helps them offensively. Can't discredit the fact that they are having one of the worst shooting seasons in NBA history. They just can't shoot the ball whatsoever. But I also think part of this is on Paolo and his ability to adapt to the way that the Magic were playing pre-injury and when Franz was the guy. There's been just a lot of situations where he's leaning into ISO ball, where he's leaning into like, I'm just going to create a shot here in the mid-range area. And it doesn't create good offense for them. It doesn't create easy advantages. Whereas Franz, it's okay, pick and roll. I'm getting downhill, driving kick situation. It's tough to see those two. I don't want to jump at the gun and say it's not going to work out. That's a little crazy. But
I think we kind of have an idea at this point, though.
There needs to be some cohesion there. I think that's part of it. And maybe adding another guard to alleviate some of that ball handling pressure, make Paolo be more of a screener, a guy who can be a rim runner and whatnot. That's probably the next wave here. But their offense is just not good enough to compete right now.
Paolo, I just think Paolo's not the guy to initiate the offense. I think if he's secondary or third guy, maybe that's okay. I don't know if he is as effective. A little bit of like a Julius Randle situation for him, I would say. Anyway,
we'll see. I think he has more of a ceiling than Randall does for sure.
Without Suggs, though, it is hard to judge anything because Suggs really just stirs the drink for them. So consistently. The Rockets held off the Bucks, and again, it's the Rockets, so it's a close fourth quarter. But the difference is Jalen Green, I thought, did a really good job of getting under control and taking over down the stretch of the game. Hit a big three to put him up, 3 or 4 points. I think it was 4 points. And then they held off from there. But the Rockets, that's a pretty big win to beat the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks are kind of up and down, but they've found their footing here since the deadline. They were 5-2 coming into this game. So pretty big win for the Rockets. What'd you think about them last night?
I mean, look, they are always one of those teams that on defense, they're hanging their hat to be involved in games, and they held the Bucks scoreless for the first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. That's just because of their defense. The thing is, on offense, they only scored 7 points in that stretch, and so that's why it was a close game. But to your point, Jalen Green led them home towards the end of that stretch. When you have moments like this against a Bucks playoff team that can be competitive, I think it shows you what these guys are made of, like what Jalen Green can do in the postseason. And right now, knowing that the Rockets are going to be a playoff team, these are good reps to get in for those moments in April and May.
Yeah. The Hornets. What are these
what
guys
did the
doing?
Hornets do?
Honestly, look, the Hornets they got beat by the Warriors. Okay. So the Warriors, we're not going to talk about them beating the Hornets because it's not, it's basically an off night for them. Yeah. But the Hornets become the first team in NBA history to lose 3 straight games by 35 or more points. They have had an embarrassing stretch since they beat the Lakers their first game out of the All-Star break.
They used all of their energy. Yeah.
Listen, I got to ask you, what are they doing right that the Raptors are doing wrong, S?
Oh, that's funny. Look, I don't know, man. I think they are really leaning into the lottery ball odds. Let's tank as much as we possibly can. I think LaMelo Ball, not in this game, but against the Portland Trailblazers, where they lost by basically 50 points. He played 21 minutes. I think they're very much so leaning into let's prioritize development.
No, it's health. They're look. We just got to get through the season healthy.
Yeah, right.
They won the Mark Williams Bowl though.
They did.
Never forget. Hang the banner in Charlotte.
Yes.
And finally, I hope you guys took the over in Grizzlies Suns because they did not play any
Crazy
defense.
Game.
151 to 148. The Grizzlies actually they win the game on just the Suns just blew it defensively.
Yeah.
An inbound pass that leads to a layup at the opposite end of the court. It's this Suns team is just beyond embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Suns are cooked, but I want to talk about the Grizzlies side of this because I thought Ja had a really wild game, right? He was 0 of 8 to start the first half and then finished off the second half. He had most of his points in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter. Yeah. Jaren Jackson Jr. gets fouled out. Ja hits a few huge buckets, leads them into overtime. He does his call 12 celebration that he usually does, which is funny in its own right. But I think this team, especially this season, goes as far as Ja can take them. Ja has had an uneven season, hasn't been as consistent as he was pre-injuries, obviously. Hopefully he can get to that level for the playoffs because I think pairing him next to Jaren is going to be really key to how far this team can go. So
I mean, look, people are going to go and look and they'll say his scoring is down, but his minutes are down too. I think his finishing, S, you and I, we talked about it a little bit in the pre-show. His finishing is not what we're used to from Ja Morant. I mean, the shooting is never really all that great. Yeah. And in this game last night, he gets 14 free throws. Mm-hmm. That's an excellent way to make a living if you're an NBA player. But how much juice is that going to have come playoff time for this team? And this is why I'm not that high on the Grizzlies. I think that they're just kind of sitting there waiting for a first round out, and I think Ja Morant's part of that problem.
Matchups are going to be crazy in the West playoffs. It's at that point in the season where you start looking at matchups and what teams could play what. We just talked about Lakers Mavs. That would be a great playoff series.
Could be a playoff matchup. And I think, we'll talk with Christian about this after the break. But last night's game to me is not indicative of what it would be in a playoff series because I think the Mavs are better at full strength than this Lakers team. But how do you go against
Anthony Davis back? And that's a different equation.
But then how do you bet against Luka and LeBron? I mean, but that's where I go with Ja and the Grizzlies. I think the other side does matter quite a bit, but Ja is just not a guy come playoff time, puts a lot of fear in my heart if I'm the opposing team. Guys, stick around after the break. We got Christian Clark live after the Mavericks lose the Luka Bowl. Well, the Mavericks, they're probably disappointed to lose the Luka Bowl, but I think that they're a better team than the Lakers. And here to talk about it, Christian Clark from The Athletic, our Dallas Mavericks beat reporter. Christian, how was the game for you?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be in LA for this game. I mean, today was just a scene, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was sitting courtside eating cotton candy.
He had a great
That's
cane,
what kind of
by
game
the way.
this was. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was sitting courtside eating cotton candy. So that's what it was like to be there.
You said when we were talking right here before the show started, you mentioned that you only really got to see Luka play like 5 times as a Maverick. So how was the 6th time in person seeing Luka Doncic covering him?
Yeah, I started this job December 9th. He gets hurt on Christmas. The trade is February 2nd. It was great to see him play today. I mean, I'm, just a huge fan of his game. I mean, a magician. I don't know if you guys saw the NBA tweet a 51-minute highlight video of Luka's time with the Mavericks, but I think I watched like 30 minutes of it today when I was just killing time. He's just a spectacular player. He didn't shoot the ball at all. He didn't shoot the ball well at all today, but I still thought he played a pretty good game. And then, the Lakers just defended really well. I mean, they've really got the defense like cranked up these last 10 games.
This game in general, I mean, some of the post-game quotes you're hearing right now is the emotion of the first half. But it was awesome in the second half, too. Like the back and forth, the Mavericks clawing back there, huge shot making from Klay and Kyrie throughout. The identity of this Mavs team so far has been the ridiculous shot making of a guy like Kyrie, Klay being able to hold up, and then the defensive nucleus that they have. How successful do you think they can be at kind of like holding down the fort while these guys get healthy?
That is a great question. I mean, they've been starting Kessler Edwards, who's a 6'7" forward on a 2-way contract at center, just before the All-Star break. That doesn't, obviously feel real sustainable to me. I think they're 5-5 since the Luka trade. Dwight Powell did come back tonight. He only played 13, 14 minutes.
Wasn't bad. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Mavericks are really fighting. Like Kyrie's locked in. He's playing amazing. Jason Kidd's got great buy-in. It's just really tough, when you have probably like the best collection of bigs in the league and, none of them can play.
Yeah. This team at full health. Klay Thompson thinks that they're a championship level team. He told you after the game that he's been around championship teams, which we know, and he feels like if they can just keep this thing going, keep it together, when everyone comes back, they got as good a shot as anybody. I actually happen to agree with him. How do you feel about this team and their championship chances?
I think he's right. I mean, I do think they have a chance to come out of the West. I mean, they did it as a 5 last year without having a home court advantage in any of the series. I think that's got to give them some confidence. I know, Luka's not here anymore, but I mean, even doing it as an 8 is harder than a 5. I mean, we're probably looking at a scenario where they're going to have to win a play-in game, this year. But I really like this team when they're at full health. I mean, we saw it for 3 quarters, that Houston game with AD. I mean, they blocked 18 shots. Like, you totally saw what they wanted to do defensively. Like, I think at full health, they're just absolutely ferocious defensively. I think my big question with this team is it's on Kyrie so much as a creator, and just how does he hold up in the playoffs when, it's him having to create 75% of the possessions and the other team is throwing all their best perimeter defenders at him. It's just a little bit different when you're number 1, most of the time, as opposed to 1A next to Luka. But this is an awesome team. And when they're full health, they absolutely could come out of the West.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question, I guess the answer Mavericks fans are hoping for, is that Anthony Davis is that guy to be sort of like that secondary creator. What is the update on AD in terms of when he might be able to come back, what they're expecting from him, and maybe some of the other bigs too, and Lively and Gafford?
Yeah, I would not say terribly encouraging. In the Mavericks' first practice after the All-Star break, I asked Jason Kidd, hey, with Anthony Davis, you guys said he's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Does this mean he definitely will not have to have surgery? And Jason Kidd said, we can't say that right now. Basically saying, look, surgery is still a possibility. On March 6th, the Mavericks are going to give updates on Anthony Davis, on Derek Lively, on Daniel Gafford. I think Lively and Gafford are for sure going to be out for a while still. I mean, Lively's still walking around in a boot. Gafford's knee injury looked pretty gnarly. That was right before the All-Star break. So, yeah, I mean, AD's been on this road trip. He's been doing some real light shooting, but I cannot stress enough, it is the lightest of shooting. I mean, he's not even jumping right now. And, I think the most telling thing of all is Jason Kidd said, yeah, I mean, surgery's still on the table.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that is wild. Just insane. For this trade to have gone down the way that it did, again, the fallout with the fans, and now, you have this whole thing. You mentioned the scene. I mean, there's Kareem there. What is it like for you covering this team and then watching essentially the rebirth of the Showtime Lakers with the Mavericks guy? I mean, what has that been like the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind saying this. I grew up a Mavericks fan, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Don Nelson was what really got me hooked on the NBA. And I think I've lost a lot of that just covering the team. But I got to say, it's like seeing Luka in purple and gold is like somebody's just pouring battery acid in my eyes. It's painful. I don't like it. I have a physical reaction. I'm trying to be professional, but I don't like it. I'm just going to be honest. It doesn't feel right at all.
I don't think anybody from Mavs side.
The Jordan commercial today with the car, and they changed the license plate over. But was the car already purple and gold? Did I miss that? Did they get a paint job? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
There's many people in LA who can do that for you.
So with the Mavericks, okay, look, they've got to get healthy, obviously. But how do they hold up? What does it look like in the meantime? Is it just a rock fight every single night, just hoping you score enough to hang in there? Or, is there something that maybe you've thought of that you see that is just low hanging fruit for them?
I mean, I feel like the adjustment is, hey, Dwight Powell, can you play 25 minutes a night? I mean, and I'm not even joking. That's just where they are. I mean, they just have no bigs. I brought up the Kessler Edwards thing earlier. They signed Kyler Kelly, who's a 27-year-old who'd never played in the NBA before, to a two-way deal earlier this season. He has not been playing recently. They signed Moses Brown to a 10-day deal right after the All-Star break. He's playing sparingly. I mean, Jason Kidd just clearly doesn't feel great about either of those options. I mean, it's Dwight Powell. I mean, really, who's your only healthy true center who started the season on this team. So more Dwight Powell is my serious answer.
Yeah. Team Canada's own Dwight Powell. Just wanted to throw that in there. Have to add a little bit of
it's in his contract
stuff in this. Yeah, exactly. No, I think it'll be an interesting kind of ending to this Mavericks season. I mean, after everything that's happened over the last month of hoopla that's been going down with Luka, from your perspective inside the arena, and kind of removing the Mavs perspective, the Lakers side of things, is there a world in which you can envision this team, this Lakers team, making a run this season as well? I know I know battery acid and all that, but do you envision them making?
I just don't I think you need good bigs to. Even though it is Luka and LeBron together, and they're just so smart, they're going to figure it out. That's going to be great. They don't have the bigs that you need. I mean, they're rolling Jackson Hayes out there at starting center. I got a lot of Jackson Hayes in my time in New Orleans. I don't think you can win multiple playoff rounds with Jackson Hayes as your starting center. I mean, there's a reason they put all that stuff on the table for Mark Williams before that trade didn't go through. Form your own conclusions about why. I don't think they have the bigs they need. And I think I'm with Dave. I think Dallas would probably beat them at full health just because they would kill them inside.
Look, I like this Mavericks team. I liked them with Luka. I thought that they could come out of the West. I think when you throw Anthony Davis in there and the sort of defense that they can have, I think they could just as easily come out of the West if they get back to full health. But they have to be 100% healthy. If they don't have Gafford and Lively, I think it's much more difficult. Say what you will about Anthony Davis's shot creation. I think that this is a team that's going to be built to win on defense. Yeah, plain and simple. I mean, Christian, you mentioned it, 18 blocks in that game. If they play that sort of defense, Christian, what's the ceiling? Is it a title?
I mean, look, the 2019-20 Lakers, a team that Jason Kidd was an assistant coach on, which played Anthony Davis at power forward and stretches. That's kind of the model for this team, and it is Kyrie Irving kind of in the LeBron primary creator role. And I mean, Kyrie is playing out of his mind right now, but he's not LeBron because nobody is LeBron. But we saw that 1920 Lakers team win the title, and their identity was defense. So there's a recent example.
Yeah. All right. Well, Christian, thank you very much for staying up late and hanging out with us. I know you got to get out of there and write this big game story. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. For Christian Clark and Es Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.